Hello, everyone, and welcome to Cinema Rogues. I am your host, Andrew, and with me, as always, is our co-host, Guy.
Hello.
Hi. So, as always, please, if you listen to our show, you can definitely go check me out on Board Game Barbarians. It is my board game-related podcast that you can listen to me and mostly Justin and I just talk about board games and tabletop gaming. And you can check out Retro Warriors, also where Justin's at. That's kind of where we branched off of now that we're a real show. We're a real boy.
Oh boy, I'm a real show.
Yeah, we got turned into a real show. The podcast fairy came and visited us and told us to do that.
Wait, before we get too far away from Board Game Barbarians, what was your last episode? I remember seeing the title of it and like, oh, I might check that one out.
It's mini painting. So
Mini painting, that's right. That seems like... my opinion of mini painting is it's boring as shit. I tried to do it at one point and I was like, no, I'm done.
It definitely, it definitely takes a certain person. I don't know. Like I like putting on like a boring documentary and then just having at it. And
cool.
Listening to the documentary and painting at the same time. Go
ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say you can check out Guy with Sidetail Studios on YouTube. Go check out him. Go ahead and check out and watch him play some video games.
And Justin's going to start streaming again.
Yeah.
So check that out. Twitch.tv/Retro Warriors.
Nice. Yeah, check that out. I think he's doing it Mondays currently is when he will be doing that. But yeah, what movies you been watching?
Before we get into that, I did have one quick editor's note. Last time we were talking about how to pronounce Gal Gadot. And so I went and looked it up because I felt really terrible being, that I didn't know how to pronounce the star's name in the movie we were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So I went and looked it up. Her pronouncing her name as Gal Gadot.
Yeah.
So
everybody else says Gal Gadot. So,
Yeah, well, that's wrong, and everybody else is wrong, and we need to respect her.
Okay, fine. Well, there we go.
Yeah.
I almost said Gal Donut.
Gal Donut? Oh, no.
Gal Gadot. All right, so...
yeah. So my week, or a couple of weeks, I guess. Finished Discovery Season 3, or Star Trek Discovery Season 3.
Nice.
That was good. I enjoyed it. The way that they left the season off gives them a lot of possibilities going to the future to make it a more traditional Star Trek show, which I'm looking forward to a lot. Caught up on The Stand for now. It's still releasing episodes, but they're still doing releasing episodes. It's again, I talked about it a little bit last time. It's kind of hard to watch just because it's not really an escape, but
right.
It's interesting and it's very well acted, and I enjoy Stephen King stuff. So yay.
Yeah.
I finished She-Ra finally. Been working on that for about 6 months.
How long is the show?
5 seasons, I think. Like okay. 10 episodes each, half an hour each. Just not super long.
Yeah.
But it's long enough. Like I would watch an episode a night if I remembered to switch the channel while my girlfriend was going to sleep, kind of thing.
Okay. Yeah.
We watched Fast and Furious 6 because we were on a years-long journey at this point to watch all the movies because we were going to watch them all before the 9th one came out last May, and then got delayed.
I keep wanting to watch Fast and Furious 3 Tokyo Drift because it's the best one. And I don't want to pay $15 for it, and I'm like, well, if I'm going to pay $15, I might as well pay $40 for the collection they have on iTunes, which is like 1 through 6 with Hobbs and Shaw, and I think another one.
Yeah, for sure. I think
or 1 through 8. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I bought the Blu-ray set that was like 1 through 8 for I think like $35 or something at Best Buy at one point.
Yeah, I keep waiting for them to be like $20 for the whole thing, and I'm like, well, I can't say no to 8 movies for $20.
Right. I enjoyed Tokyo Drift. I think it's better than people give it credit for.
I don't know about that. I think it's a bad movie, but I love it. It's just it's the most fun. It's the most fun Fast and Furious movie that I've seen, which is 2. I've seen 2 Fast and Furious movies.
Well, now you just have to get your vaccine, and then you can go over to Justin's house and watch all of them. He bought them.
Wait, he bought them?
Yeah, it was one of the. I don't know. I guess he got that new TV or whatever, and an ultra Blu-ray player, and that was a collection that he bought for some reason.
Weird. Okay.
Yeah. Deadpool 2. Finally watched that.
Nice.
I had not seen it.
I had another friend that had not seen it, and he texted me out of the blue last week and was like, finally watched Deadpool 2. Didn't think it was as good as the first.
Oh, man. I thought it was...
That's what I said. I was like, nah, I'm pretty sure it's up there. Like, I liked it.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it was any better or worse. I think it was as good as the first one.
Yeah, they're comparable.
Yeah. I really enjoyed... It shocked me that they killed off Morena Baccarin's character. I forgot her character's name.
I forgot it too. Yeah.
It shocked me that they killed her off, but then also like they start the credits like, "Oh, you really killed her?"
She's the love interest, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, well they had to kill her so that way he could marry Death.
Right, I guess. That didn't come up in this movie.
Not at all. No.
But it was like I said, it was really good. If y'all listening haven't seen it for whatever reason, I would recommend checking that one out. And then I watched the Marvel Legends thing. They premiered the first 2 episodes of that.
I tried. It was just like the first episode's just like a recap of the characters in the movies, showing clips from the movies, and I'm like, yeah, I've seen all these a bunch of times. I don't need to.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. But it's great. Like, watching Wanda's story from Wanda's perspective with, clips from the movie, some supporting scenes, and new dramatic music to kind of give it an overall like packaged theme sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I think it worked really well, and I think it'll be good for anybody who's trying to, who hasn't watched the entire like Infinity Saga or Phase 1 through 3 like 50 times or whatever.
Right.
Yeah,
I got like halfway through it and was like, nah, I'm not gonna spend any more time watching this.
See, I got like we watched WandaVision episode 1 and 2, and I'll get to that in a second. But since we both watched it, I kind of wanted to save that for the end. But Kristen and I finished watching episodes 1 and 2 WandaVision, and so she went like downstairs to do something or other, and I was like, well, let me see what this is all about. And then it started going. I was like, okay, this is kind of neat. How long is this? Oh, it's like 7 minutes.
Yeah,
okay,
it's not long at all.
Great. So I got about halfway through it, and then she came upstairs, and I started it over, and we watched both of them.
Oh, nice.
But it was neat too, especially because the first 2 episodes are Wanda and Vision, because WandaVision came out.
I would assume so, yeah.
Right. And it was neat because you're seeing like the same story more or less, because Wanda's story is, a large chunk of her story is falling in love with Vision and the fallout from that.
Right.
So seeing it from both characters' perspectives and their origins and stuff, it was kind of neat the way that they had like even like the same fight, but it felt different because of the way that the build up to it had gotten.
Okay.
So, I don't know. It's interesting. And then like I said, we watched WandaVision's episode 1 and 2.
I did too.
Right. It's I thought it was pretty good. I laughed, but I was also off kilter a whole it kept me off kilter a bunch because of the sort of underlying like tension of knowing that something is really wrong. Right.
Yeah, the underlying that there's someone controlling this or that something's happening. Yeah.
Right. And it's obviously in continuity with or eventually going to be in continuity with the current canon.
Mm-hmm.
So, there are all sorts of questions about how is Vision alive and what the fuck is actually going on and blah, blah, blah. But then they seed it with characters in the show sometimes acting like they know something is wrong, like they have a little bit of meta knowledge potentially.
I always picked it up as, and not to get too far into the show, but
sure,
I picked it up as like they also don't know what's happening, and they're trying to kind of keep it a secret that they don't know what's happening because everybody else seems to be just going along with it. At least for the neighbor that like helps out.
Yeah. And I think that 70s show mom lady, forgot her name.
Yep.
Also seems kind of not necessarily in on it, but that she's going to be a larger character going forward, I suppose.
I mean, she wasn't in the second episode, so.
I mean, she was in the audience during the magic show.
Oh, yeah. She doesn't have a large role or anything.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we'll get into my 2 weeks. I watched a movie called Blind Fury that I watched with Justin. That's basically about a blind Vietnam vet with a sword going around and like stabbing people or trying to save this kid. It was really awkward and weird and one of those like entertaining bad movies while also just being really bad. Like it wasn't meant to be funny, but it was really funny. And it's on Amazon Prime if anybody wants to go check it out. We started and finished his Dark Materials season 2 on HBO.
Nice. Have you read the books? I forget.
I have not, no. And I have not seen the movie or anything like that. My brother read the books a little bit, but I never read them myself. And then kind of in preparation for the show topic, I watched Citizen Kane again today, actually.
Nice. Yeah. In preparation for the show topic, I did not watch Citizen Kane as you requested. You requested me to either not watch it or watch it after. So.
Well, I requested for you to watch it after because I wanted to see what your opinion of it was after. Because I have already watched it multiple times before seeing Mank,
right,
which is our show topic, but I did not. I haven't watched it in a little while, so I wanted to see what you thought of Mank before seeing Citizen Kane.
Right.
Yes.
Well,
let's go ahead and get into some news. I'll take a couple of them. So Godzilla vs. King Kong moved from May to March 26th, and it'll be on HBO Max and in theaters. So you've got the Chris Evans signs for more Captain America. The last time I saw the news, he was in talks too. Did they finish that?
I thought they had, although I did see something from his Twitter account, and I don't know.
The last time I looked at it was like Wednesday or Tuesday, so he could have finalized stuff by the time, like the last time I looked at it.
It looks like they're still working on it. Yeah. Okay, so what I was going to say is that I saw a tweet from him that said news to me, and I wasn't sure if that was in reference to the rumor or if that was something else. Okay. So apparently he's also not confirming that it's confirmed.
It's Disney and Marvel, so they usually are pretty strict about all the information that they release and contracts and everything like that.
Dude, they're strict about the information they tell Tom Holland at this point.
Well, they have to be. Him and the guy that played the Hulk, man. What's his name? What's his name?
Mark Ruffalo.
Yeah, Mark Ruffalo. Both of them are terrible at keeping secrets. And then I'll do Ray Fisher edited out of the Flash movie. If you haven't looked up that controversy, go ahead and check it out. There's some information that he released. I think he released like a phone conversation or something like that.
Yeah, I mean the whole story is that I suppose a brief recap is that he was unhappy with Joss Whedon when Joss Whedon came in to take over from Zack Snyder, because Zack Snyder needed to drop out of Justice League for personal reasons.
Right.
And the accusations that are public are just sort of general accusations of an abusive environment created by Joss Whedon when he came in.
Doesn't surprise
me. Yeah, and he's been backed up by multiple members of the cast. His version, WB has done an investigation, but nothing came of that investigation, and there are questions of how thorough was it, et cetera, et cetera. And then things have come to a point where WB supposedly is just at the point where they're like, no, we're not even going to deal with the cyborg anymore. We're not going to recast it. You're not going to be in our movies.
Oh, geez.
We're just done with the character. So, I mean, I assume that at some point it'll be worked out to a certain extent, whether they recast it or whatever.
Right.
But it is pretty. It's a rough situation, and I can't talk knowledgeably enough about it to really get into it. But I would encourage people to go look and see what Ray says and see, make your judgments for yourself, kind of thing.
Yeah, make your own calls. Why don't you finish out the news for us?
Sure, man. Siegfried from Siegfried and Roy died of pancreatic cancer at the ripe old age of 81.
I did not see that at all.
Yep. So now Siegfried and Roy are both gone.
Jeez.
Which is weird to me. I don't know why it's weird, because they were a magic act from when I was a child. So
right.
it's about time, right?
I didn't realize he was 81. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I guess I think so. I don't think about them that much, to the point to where I just imagine they're always the same age for some reason. Like, yeah, that's weird. Did they leave everything to their tigers?
I have no idea. I don't have this on the news, but because I guess I found out today it's Betty White's birthday and James Earl Jones's birthday.
Ooh, nice.
Betty White is I believe 99 this year.
Dang.
And
Betty
James
White.
Earl Jones is like 90 or some such.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, y'all. Keep on keeping on.
Keeping on, birthing on.
Yeah. And then he is 90. James Earl Jones, born in 1931. Michael Keaton has been confirmed by WB as one of two Batmen going forward in the DC, I guess, extended universe.
Nice.
So that would be
him and
Robert Pattinson's Batman,
yeah,
and Michael Keaton's Bruce Wayne. Which likely means that he's going to be taking on a mentor type role, specifically for the Flash movie. I assume he's going to have some sort of mentorship with Barry. But if they're talking about him going forward for multiple movies, then you're potentially looking at like a Batman Beyond type scenario. Maybe Terry McGinnis makes an appearance in live action.
Yeah, I wonder how that's going to work with Flash. Is he the Batman in the Flash movie?
Yeah, I don't know. I've heard rumors about Ben Affleck potentially making an appearance and both of them being in there.
Yeah.
But I think WB is committed to Michael Keaton being the main Bruce Wayne going forward.
Old man Batman.
Yeah, old man Batman. And then lastly, Netflix announced a slate of 27 movies for the rest of 2021.
Yep.
That looking at them, I started to make a list, and there's so many that it's hard to make a list and highlight some.
I don't think we would read it off on the show anyway, because I read they were doing like once a week or something like that.
Yeah, 27 movies, that's every couple of weeks at least.
Yeah. So pretty, at least two movies a month, if not more on some months, which is nuts. Yeah.
And that's a wrap for news. Let's get into the topic.
That's the news. So this week we're talking about Mank, which is I don't believe it's a Netflix original. I think it's a movie that Netflix purchased in order to have the rights for it. But it is basically a biopic story of Herman Mankiewicz and his time writing Citizen Kane. So release info came out. I think it came out. You've got it here at 11:30 tonight. I thought it came out like December 4th.
11/30/2020 is what it said on the Wikipedia page.
Okay.
So
maybe I got it wrong.
Maybe it had an earlier theatrical release.
Maybe it did. That actually, yeah, that might be true. Yeah, because I'm seeing on IMDb it says December 4th.
Interesting. So somewhere around the last week of November.
Conflicting information, internet. But the screenplay was originally written by Jack Fincher's prior to Jack Fincher's death in 2003. It's supposed to follow up to The Game.
It was written by Jack Fincher, who is David Fincher's dad. It was going to be the movie that David Fincher directed after he directed the game.
Okay.
Which, if I'm not mistaken, if I'm thinking of the right movie, it is that dude from Falling Down.
No idea. I'm so
Michael
bad with
Douglas.
names.
Michael Douglas movie was the game. Which I remember watching that when I was a kid. In 1997, I would have been 15. And I thought it was a really just a great movie.
Yeah.
So I guess if you want to check out a David Fincher movie, go watch the game. Anyway,
I've never seen it, so maybe I should.
Originally, Kevin Spacey and Jodie Foster were supposed to be the stars of the movie.
God, that would have been terrible.
Oh, yeah. You imagine again Kevin Spacey as Herman Mankiewicz?
I cannot, dude. That would have been atrocious.
Yeah. But the original version fell through because David Fincher wanted to film in black and white, and the original company that was financing the movies like no.
So they didn't understand how it's just a giant homage to Citizen Kane, and that's why he wanted it in black and white.
Yeah, apparently. Apparently the creative differences were enough that the project got shelved. And he's been trying to get it made ever since.
What a bunch of dum-dums not taking over. Well, notable people, we've got director David Fincher. We got story written by Jack Fincher. You have Gary Oldman and as Herman Mankiewicz, Amanda Seyfried as Marion Davis, and Lily Collins as Rita Alexander.
In supporting roles, you've got Arliss Howard as Louis B. Mayer, Charles Dance as William Randolph Hearst, Tuppence Middleton as Sarah Mankiewicz, and Tom Burke as Orson Welles.
I was looking up some pictures. Charles Dance would have looked just like William Randolph Hearst if they gave him some like neck fat. If they had done that, it would have been like perfect.
Oh man, I was talking to my girlfriend earlier, trying to remember what his name was. William Randolph Hearst.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, the dude in Citizen Kane that was played by like Charles Dance, blah blah blah. And she's like, I have no idea who you're talking about. And I was like, you know what? Let me go look it up. And the reason I went and looked it up is because the only name that I could think of was HR Puffenstuff.
That's not it at all.
And then I told her that, and she goes, "Oh yeah, I would have gotten it if you had told me HR Puffenstuff." Like, really? She's like, yeah.
I don't know.
As soon as you said that, I thought William Randolph Hearst. I was like, what? How?
That is very weird.
Awards and nominations. It's been nominated for several awards. I didn't necessarily want to list them all out, but it's been nominated. I think the list on Wikipedia was like 7 different award shows. And the nominations range from best supporting actress, best actor, best director, best screenplay, best cinematography, best costume design.
It'll be great if it only wins an Oscar for writing.
Oh, that'd be fantastic.
That'd be funny.
That would be hilarious.
The reason that's funny for anyone that's listening is that's the only Oscar that Citizen Kane won was the screenplay.
Yeah, and I know we'll get into it some more, but I found that whole like taking credit thing endlessly fascinating.
Yeah, that part at the end. Yeah, definitely so.
But anyway, so I expect as award season progresses and we get into the Golden Globes and the Academy Awards, that it'll be up in several categories. So I don't know if it's going to do well per se, but
yeah, I'm sure we'll see it again. Yeah.
In my opinion, I think it did. It deserves the recognition that it's starting to get.
For sure. Yeah. No, it was a great movie. Rotten Tomato scores, you got 83% for the reviewers and 61% for user score, and then Metacritic, you got 79% for reviewers and 6.1 for user score. So obviously, like, reviewers liked it more than users, or just like the standard viewer. I don't know. love this movie so much.
Yeah, it was really good. I was laughing because it's the way that you said users. Users of the videoed watching devices.
Yep.
It's
Not
just,
the users from Tron. Just
the users from the streets.
There you go. Well, tell me, what did you, spoiler free review before we get into it? What did you think of it?
Like we were saying, I thought it was really well done. It's very, very clearly from the opening frame an homage to Citizen Kane, or the era of movies that Citizen Kane came out in. Not having seen Citizen Kane, I couldn't necessarily draw the direct parallel. But being familiar with the golden age of cinema, it's clearly, the aesthetic they were going for
Right.
in the framing and in the cinematography. Gary Oldman, as always, is fantastic, and Lily Collins was great as his, secretary / nurse / I don't know, muse at times.
She did a great job. I thought Amanda Seyfried did a really great job.
Mm-hmm.
And even Charles Dance, like, it really, the whole cast, everything was great. Tom Burke has a very, very good Orson Welles voice.
Yeah,
Like, his impression of Orson Welles was very good.
you know how I judged it.
Hmm.
I judged it by how much it sounded like Brain.
Yeah, because that same guy that does the voice for Brain has done multiple Orson Welles impressions for different movies and shows. He's usually the guy that they go to.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm on the same page with you. I thought it was a brilliant movie as far as, like, and we'll kind of get into it in spoilers, but the use of black and white, the shot for shot kind of remakes of some of the shots in this movie versus some of the shots in Citizen Kane, definitely just a complete homage to Citizen Kane. And man, just if you like kind of story driven movies, stylized, great cinematography, great sound. There were obviously some, like, one of those things where you can't tell if it's a backdrop or CG, and you're kind of hoping that it's a physical backdrop because it just looks so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a well made, well crafted, and written movie.
Yeah, there were a lot of you kind of touched on this. There were a lot of great character moments. The story seemed to evolve, I suppose, sort of naturally. It was it's one of those things where it wasn't linear storytelling,
Right.
but the way that it was told and the way it was through all these different character moments that really built up the understanding of what happened and how you got from 1933 to 1940.
Yeah, and that's what Citizen Kane does too. So Citizen Kane has the same, shows you something from sort of now times and then flashbacks or goes forward. Very, just like in the movie, just non-linear narrative. But yeah, I guess we'll get into should you watch it. I think we both very much agree that if you have the 2 hours just to watch it, it's definitely worth it, as long as you're not expecting like an action-packed comedy. Like, there's definitely comedic moments in this movie.
Yeah, like I agree. I having not watched Citizen Kane, but having been immersed in popular culture by virtue of living.
Yeah.
It was I was able to touch enough with the source material, or the reference material, I guess, to draw it back and see some of those moments, and relate to those, but at the same time it holds its own very well as its own movie.
Right. I mean, I would definitely 100% still suggest that anyone go watch Citizen Kane. It is one of the best, if not, I mean, it's critically acclaimed as the best movie for a long time. I don't know if it still is. But the reasoning for that is because it, for the most part, started what we now know as modern filmmaking and cinematography.
Yeah.
So before, whenever movies, like before Citizen Kane came out, movies kind of filmed as if the people you're seeing on stage were, it's like a stage, like a play. So they mainly filmed the soundstage in a stationary position, like you're watching a play. And Citizen Kane definitely brought in the camera being its own character in a movie, and established a lot of like shots and cinematography work that has never been in a movie before that. So it's an important movie, I guess.
Yeah, well, and I was under the impression that it was like a 3-hour movie.
No, it's shorter than Mank, technically.
Yeah.
By like 5 minutes.
I was surprised. I turned it on today to I don't know. I kind of wanted to check out a little bit of it, and I had time, but then the time got away from me, so I never like finished anything. I watched, like I said, maybe 20-30 minutes of it.
The first like 15 minutes where it's like the newsreel kind of thing is my least favorite part of the movie, but
that part was fun. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, we'll get
Xanadu.
But yeah, so definitely go watch it. But I guess we'll get into the spoiler section of the show. Spoiler zone.
Spoiler zone.
A lot of the stuff that that I wanted to talk about, I kind of talked about before the spoilers. But I did want to say, like, just the complete, like, mimicking Citizen Kane. Like, what I didn't talk about previously was like the audio and the music. Like, there's a filter on their voices, basically, that make it kind of sound like an older movie. Or the sound work for an older movie.
I didn't really notice that per se. But now that you mention it and thinking back on it, I can see that.
Like there's like a tingy or a tinny sound to their voices.
Gotcha,
where it sounds like they were recording on like older equipment, basically. Or like the equipment that they would have recorded on in that time.
Yeah. And I thought it was neat that they filmed it in black and white, right? So, you know, it wasn't a post-process thing. They actually used black and white. I don't know if they used film or they used like digital photography, but they didn't do any of the shooting in color. They didn't do like their costume color blocking in color. They did it in black and white. I was reading that they had. They used the black and white iPhone filter to do costume tests to see how it would look when they do use black and white film.
Okay.
And so then they went and looked at, you know, what colors did people wear and actors wear and stuff back in the 30s and 40s to lend some authenticity to it.
Right.
But also so that those colors would show, or you know, those shades would show through in black and white properly.
Nice. Yeah, I didn't really look too much into like the making. I would be interested in, I don't know if it's available for purchase, but I would be interested in like a commentary of the movie. Side note, I've actually been to Hearst Castle in California, because you can go, not right now because of COVID, but you can go you can go on tours and actually go into the castle and walk around, and it's basically like the Alcatraz tour where there's a tour guide. Well, I guess they don't do that anymore. It's all headsets, but
where's that at?
That is in Samsinian, which is,
I assume, around LA somewhere.
Closer to Bakersfield. Yeah, it's fairly far away from Los Angeles. It's in between. Okay. It's actually like almost smack dab in the middle between San Jose and Los Angeles.
San Jose?
San Jose is up by San Francisco.
Yeah, that's just that to me. That's a weird reference city, because if you're gonna reference the Bay Area, generally it's San Francisco.
I guess so. Yeah, San Francisco. Well, yeah, I guess that's weird. I'm from California, so I don't know. Whatever. But yeah, so that was the time that I went. I was sick. I was very sick, but I still like dragged myself on the tour, which was probably a bad idea. I got excited in like the first 15 minutes of this movie just because of the cinematography and directing was so good.
Well, like what specifically?
Like it just felt like it was kind of made in the same fashion that Citizen Kane one, which I'm 100% sure is on purpose. But I don't know, like just the shots. There was one of the shots that I really liked was whenever he's walking with Amanda Seyfried in the zoo area, I guess.
Right.
Where they're right next to the monkeys, and they hold that long shot of them walking from far away, which they don't really do in movies anymore. That's the only one I can think of. There was another one that I really liked, but I can't think of it off the top of my head.
Yeah. Well, I mean, overall, the cinematography was really great.
Right. Like 100% all of it was. But I'm saying, like, yeah, like the first, like, 15 minutes, I was like, oh, this is great. This is done very well.
Yeah, I thought the scene where he Mank was like super drunk and just going off on Hearst at his birthday party or whatever it was. I thought that was really well. I don't know what the word for it is. Blocked out.
Yeah,
like just the way that the cameras were set up, the way that the angles that they were, and the way the lighting interacted with it, I thought was fantastic in that scene.
One thing I didn't like was the first birthday scene, which I think it was for Mayer's birthday.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever they're talking about Hitler and communism and all that, there's the fire behind William Randolph Hearst was obviously CG.
Oh, I didn't notice.
And it bugged. Like, I rewound it and I was like, because I'm like, is this, like, my wife, I was like, is this CG? It's bugging me. And she was like, oh, yeah, that looks like it's CG. And now that we're talking about it, maybe real fire affected the black and white film process in some way.
Oh, yeah, it's possible.
And so they had to put in a fake fire, but it definitely it looked off. If it was a real fire, it looked weird. Like it didn't look like a real fire. But maybe it was just like from underneath just a gas fire, like propane. And so maybe that's why it looked weird. I don't know. I'm used to, like, I don't have gas in my house for a fireplace, so I have to do real, like, just regular wood fires. Yeah, that was Otto. Anyway, just like what we've kind of already talked about. I didn't realize that Mankiewicz had, because I went back and looked at his IMDb, and he actually, like, worked on Wizard of Oz and a couple other movies, and I was not aware of that.
Oh yeah. He was a big writer for MGM for a while there, which I suppose was sort of a point of the movie, but it's I did the same thing. Went and looked back at his IMDb, and he was involved in so much stuff, and it's.
Yep.
I think a lot of it has to do with just the way that studios operated back in the day, where they had sole rights to writers and actors and
directors, yeah,
right,
and everybody had to touch something because they wanted to make sure it was profitable. I thought it was a really nice touch, the cigarette burns in the movie. So for anyone
that was cool,
that doesn't know or hasn't watched Fight Club, because they explain it in Fight Club, the old real movies, you don't see them anymore because they're all digital. They would have a cigarette burn in the actual film itself to let the reel operators know when to switch reels. And so in this movie, which I think even a lot of older movies, they've digitally removed them. So I thought it was funny because I didn't see it. I don't remember seeing it in Citizen Kane. But I thought it was funny that they added the cigarette burns for a completely digital movie.
I remember when Fight Club came out, and that was a thing to pay attention to after that.
Right.
Noticing that there's two of them. There's one like it's either at the beginning of the camera shot that's going to change, or it's a specific time amount. But there's definitely like a warning one, and then one at the very end of the scene where you're supposed to switch.
Yep, and there are actually two in the movie, like two sets in the movie.
Yeah.
So the first one is when they're talking after the zoo, like around the fountain, and then the second one is during a transition, where it says like, exterior someplace, basically a scene transition, which I liked that too, just the transition actually showing you the script writing for how each scene changes, and they did that every time there was a flashback.
No, I was just saying the movie's chock full of stuff like that. That's and we keep saying it's an homage to, Citizen Kane, but it's an homage to old time cinema making.
Yeah. Well, there's the obvious, definite one where he's got the bottle of tranquilizers in his hand, and it falls out of his hand onto the floor, and that's just a homage to Citizen Kane dropping the snow globe that the whole movie is basically starting from. I couldn't tell if it was a subtle commentary on our current political climate as well, or if it was just that because we've kind of reverted to the old political climate.
Well, we kind of touched on this in our Wonder Woman episode a bit too. The 30s and the Great Depression were really caused by income inequality.
Right.
And the collection of resources in a very few and not being able to sustain that, on a countrywide level.
Right.
So I think you're going to get a lot of similarities just because we find ourselves in a similar situation these days. And then you had the, what is it? What is his name? I forgot. He's played by Bill Nye.
Yeah, Bill Nye the Science Guy.
So Bill Nye the Science Guy was running for office
as a socialist, or he was previously a socialist, but running on the Democratic ticket.
Right, and I think him and William Randolph Hearst had similar views. If I'm not mistaken, if I'm reading this right, or not if I'm reading this, if I read the movie right.
Yeah, in his youth, that's what the big drunk speech is about. He basically gives the entire story for Citizen Kane during that drunk speech in the birthday.
Right.
Like the Don Quixote story.
Well, and that's what I noticed in the newsreels watching the beginning of Citizen Kane was, it was talking about how, what is that, always the bridesmaid, never the bride, when it comes to his political ambitions, never elected to office, et cetera, et cetera. And so watching Citizen Kane, I drew that back to what they were talking about, William Randolph Hearst and that other guy who I'll think of in a minute.
Meyer. What? Oh no, you mean the political guy.
Yeah, Bill Nye.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those things where calling things communist and socialist, calling progressive things communist and socialist are just arguments that are used by the right and have been for forever, really.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of that comes through in this movie, and it's how we got out of the Depression in the 30s was through a bunch of progressive socialist type policies. And
Upton Sinclair is who you're looking for.
Thank you, Upton Sinclair. And so, it's hard to have a movie based around a movie that I don't even know what I'm trying to say right now.
I think
I'm trying to say it's hard to have a movie that touches on the character that another movie is about without pulling in his political sort of philosophy and leanings and analyzing that for at least a little bit.
Yeah, I think the main thing, like my wife said when we were watching it, was just she was like, yeah, it's depressing that it's been 100 years and we still haven't, we're still doing the same political tropes of calling anyone progressive a communist or a socialist, and that still being a bad word. Socialism, not communism. Communism is bad, but
right. But accusing people of being communist because they want to give health care to people or whatever is
right.
Weird. I mean, to round off the political discussion, because we could get off into the weeds, but to round it off real quickly,
yeah, we'll put a cap on it.
To be fair, we're having the same discussions and arguments these days, but for a good chunk of time in the 40s to mid 50s, we did do a lot of the things that needed to be done, and provide opportunities to people that didn't have them. And we established Social Security and all this other stuff. So we did, learn some lessons. We've just regressed a bit, I think.
I did want to mention Bill Nye was in the movie. I thought that was funny. It was a funny moment because my wife was the one that recognized it, because he's kind of in the distance. You don't really ever see him up close. But she was just like, "Oh my God, is that Bill Nye?" And I was like, "No, that's not the science guy,
dude."
And then I have to go and look it up.
I was like, "No, that's the science guy." And Kristen goes, "Oh, it is." I was like, "I can tell by his voice."
But yeah, no, I think that was what I was going to say, is that I liked that in the Don Quixote scene is him explaining the plot of Citizen Kane to William Randolph Hearst in his face.
Yeah, that was great.
I'm glad I made it the show topic, just because I was looking forward to the movie and then I forgot about it, and then I remembered it, but I didn't want to spend time to watch it. And so I made it the topic so it would force me to watch the movie that I wanted to watch.
Well, do you have any other, I suppose, specific moments or scenes that were evocative of Citizen Kane in any way, or anything that you were like had I watched Citizen Kane, you know, things that you were like, hey, did you notice this? Hey, did you notice that?
I mean, the shot whenever they're by the fountain, whenever the cigarette burn happens, the first one, in the background, there's a backdrop of Hearst Castle, and it's almost looks the exact same as the backdrop for Hearst Castle in Citizen Kane. So they look very similar, except that the backdrop in Citizen Kane only had one light on, versus in this movie it's got a bunch of lights on because there's people all over the castle.
All right, you keep calling it Hearst Castle. In the 5 minutes of Citizen Kane that I saw, it was called like Xanadu or some bullshit. What's
Xanadu's what they called it in because they can't call him William Randolph Hearst. They called him Charles Charles Kane.
Yeah.
And so they couldn't name it Samsinian because that would have been like, hey, this is obviously William Randolph Hearst. You know, they couldn't make them the same named people or have the same information, even though they still got sued for it because it was close enough to real life. But that's what Xanadu is, Samsinian or Hearst Castle.
Gotcha.
And for anyone that doesn't know, William Randolph Hearst was a crazy person and literally imported pieces of other castles all over Europe to California and put them all together like, I guess, Tetris style, and made a giant weird castle out of it all.
Oh, man.
So,
I know. I particularly love the scene where he meets William Randolph Hearst for the first time, right? Because Marion's like out there screaming and like wakes him up.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that scene too. I liked that was the other shot that I really loved. That was you reminded me, it was the 15-minute shot. It's the one whenever he's walking alongside the film car, like the car that's filming the horses or the guys on the horses as they go. And the camera that you're watching from is panning back as that pans forward and as Mank walks forward, and it was just such a like it gave me like chills shot. Like it was such a nice shot. Like I liked it so much. Like the symmetry of that was just great.
Yeah, let's see. I didn't understand completely what was going on with the medication or whatever that they had like hidden away. Like I know that Orson Welles had him, hidden away in like a dry area so that he could concentrate or whatnot. And they clearly snuck some sort of something in that seemed like it was, Mank thought it was booze. Turned out it was some sort of like fucking sedative or some shit.
Yeah. It was a tranquilizer. So like, yeah, so they put it in there. They're like, hey, this is alcohol. When your legs are better, you can get it. And he got it before his leg was better. And then he drank the entire bottle, and I think you're only supposed to drink like half or something like that. Side note: in Citizen Kane, his second wife does the same thing. She takes an entire bottle of sedative, and it looks like the same exact bottle on the nightstand. So they modeled it after that bottle, and they're all worried about her because she passed out, and they call a doctor and all that stuff.
Oh, okay. And then in Citizen Kane, his second wife was based off of
Amanda Seyfried's
character, right? But she was named after the nurse lady.
I think so.
Yeah, in Citizen Kane, her name was like Sarah Alexander something.
Yeah, I don't remember off the top of my head.
Sarah Alexander Kane. There we go.
Yeah.
And his secretary was Rita Alexander.
Ah, okay.
So Mank stuck her name into the movie.
There you go. What a nice thing to do.
Yeah, it's a nice thing to do. And I thought their relationship was really cool. It started off sort of standoffish, and she was like, "Are you kidding me? Like, this guy's just a fucking drunk and an asshole."
Yeah.
You know, but it evolved over the time that he was writing the movie. And even there was the story that was told by his friend or whatever, the other lady in the house.
Oh, his nurse?
Yes.
Yeah, wherever he's he basically transferred her entire village to America because of Nazi Germany.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's insane.
I don't know if that's true. I assume it is because they put it in the movie, and I feel like that's like one of those larger than life things that they would have included and not made up. But it could have been. I guess we should have looked that up, but we didn't. So
well, just say it. Herman Mankiewicz saved people from Nazis.
Yeah, he did that.
100% verifiable.
But yeah, the whole part I liked. I almost said Citizen Kane. I liked Orson Welles, the guy that played Orson Welles. Like anger at the end of the movie whenever he's all pissed off that Mank wants to have any sort of writer credits, which you wanted to ask about that.
Well, I want to talk about it a little bit, because it was interesting to me, like, at the beginning when he's on the phone with the intermediary guy, and he's like, no, I don't want credit for it. I just, I want to write this movie. It's a movie that I want to get made. I don't care about credit. And
Right.
then, through the process of working through, that time in his life and writing the screenplay, which, I think everybody's heard the axiom of write what you know.
Right.
And so to write the screenplay that's been, gestating in his brain for a couple of years at this point of this experience that he lived and went through.
Since that birthday.
It was really interesting to see him evolve from, no, I just want this out there, to, this is the best thing I ever wrote. I'm going to take credit for it. Sorry.
Right.
And he even said to the intermediary guy, he's like, dude, Orson's not going to like this, but I need to talk to him. And from what I gather, there's a very public rift about that credit. And it's interesting to see that, that rift didn't come from a selfish place necessarily, as much as a place of pride of accomplishment and
or an earned place.
Yeah. I thought that was really, really interesting. And I went and looked at it, or again, in my research, found out that David Lynch, or it's not David Lynch. I keep saying David Lynch. David Fincher, was, when they asked him about it, and he said, "Look, I'm not giving an answer about this credit thing. I'm not trying to write this movie to posthumously pass judgment on
Right.
who should or shouldn't have gotten credit. It's not an argument for that. It doesn't really matter. I just want to illustrate the motivation behind claiming that credit."
Right. Or why he, yeah. Yeah, I liked. I don't know. One last thing I wanted to say, which is kind of off topic. At the end of the movie, whenever he's accepting his Oscar and they're filming him in front of like his house or whatever,
Yeah.
is the moment that I was like, he'd make a really good Walt Disney, like older Walt Disney, if they ever made another biopic with him.
Dude,
but like facially,
Gary Oldman could play any part, really.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree
wasn't
on that.
there something about him not wanting to be wanting to be filmed in not makeup or something?
Was there?
Gary Oldman was kind of nervous because he's been in heavy prosthetics for like Churchill and a couple of other of his more recent roles.
Mm-hmm.
But for this, David Fincher was like, no, you're going to look like you, but you're just going to inhabit the character enough that people are going to believe it. And Gary Oldman's really great at doing that. So, I think they made a great decision.
Yeah, that would have been good. I don't think the movie would have been as good if Gary Oldman was trying to look like, because he looks nothing like Herman Mankiewicz.
Right.
So I think that might have taken away from it if he was trying to be or look like him.
Yeah. So again, I guess let's get into final thoughts then.
They're pretty obvious, I think.
It's pretty obvious. You need to see this movie. If you've made it this far in our show and you haven't seen this movie, go see it. It's
if you're interested in film as an art form, then yeah. I think it is a must.
I think that's a great way of putting it. This is, it's a very artful film. It's a character study. It's an homage to classic filmmaking, and it's just a really solidly put together movie.
Yep, it's a well-crafted story with beautiful cinematography and just artistic framing. But you can watch it on Netflix. That's where it's available right now. I don't know. I didn't even look to see if it's on iTunes or anything. Have they made it available for like home video?
I don't believe they have.
I don't know why I said it like that. Home video.
The home to videos.
It is not on iTunes, so it looks like Netflix will own it for a while.
Yep. So yeah, if you have Netflix, check it out. It's well worth it, and you're paying for it anyway. So
you're already paying for it, so you might as well watch it.
Absolutely. Well then, I guess it's time to talk about next time, eh?
Yeah. What are we watching next time?
We are watching The Midnight Sky, starring George Clooney and Felicity Jones.
When was that made?
Last year. Came out in 2019.
Oh. It's on Netflix as well.
It's on Netflix as well. I was going through the different services to try and find a recent-ish movie that wasn't Soul. I want to get to Soul, but there's also some controversy with the movie and its casting. And before we get into that movie, I want to be more intelligible about it.
Okay.
So it's probably on the list here in February, I would think.
Alrighty. Well, we'll be back next time.
And until then, remember, the narrative is one big circle, like a cinnamon roll, not a straight line pointing to the nearest exit.
Like a cinnamon roll. Bye.
Bye.